Hello, I'm Stuart McMc, Executive Producer and Managing Director here at Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. This is I Didn't Mean It Like That, the show full of bloopers, Freudian slips, misspeaking, ridiculous anecdotes, and random nonsense. Enjoy the carnage.
The birds will poo on the ground because the birds don't have toilets to go to. The bathroom to go to the poo. I file this under work in progress. Have you ever had a incident where you first hear something or see something and you think that it's an original idea and you're really impressed? You think, wow, that's so creative and clever. I'm really impressed. But then, years later, you discover that actually that thing that you saw was a reference to something that had happened earlier. So you watch the original and then you realize that the first thing you saw was just a blatant copy of the original. And that kind of dampens your mood because you think the thing that you first saw is actually just really boring. So I was watching the cartoon show Dilbert, and it was the episode where they decided to bring Ben Franklin back to life. Ben Franklin wanted some updates on how his inventions had been going for the last 200 years. So he said, "How's the post office? Is it a model of efficiency that I always envisioned?" And then Dilbert said, "Actually, it's terribly inefficient, stamps are really expensive, the lines are really long, and it's gotten to the point where the phrase going postal refers to when someone goes crazy and shoots up the place." Now, that was the first time I had ever heard the phrase going postal, so I assumed that it was an original invention by the people who made the Dilbert cartoon, and so I thought, that's really clever, to just out of nowhere, from nothing, to just imagine there's this phrase going postal, which refers to postmen going crazy and shooting up the place. Yeah, very funny. That was probably my favourite joke of the entire cartoon series. Years later, I discovered that actually going postal was a real expression, not something that the Dilbert cartoon had invented. That in fact, there were incidents of postmen shooting up the place and going crazy and firing on large groups of people, and that's where the phrase came from. So it was an actual part of our culture, this phrase. So Dilbert had just basically made a reference. It wasn't a bad reference, but there was nothing great about it, and it was just a reference to something that's already established in our culture. So it wasn't trying to create anything new, wasn't trying to explore ideas, wasn't trying to subvert our expectations. It was just a reference to something that exists in reality, which is perfectly fine, but it is not a piece of AAA comedic material, and so I was just rather disappointed. And so, over the years, I've learned to be more skeptical. So whenever I see an original idea on a cartoon, my first thought should be that this is an original idea that they've invented themselves. But more and more I'm growing aware that people mostly just steal stuff from other people, or make winks to other people, or make indirect references. And so whenever I see something that I've never seen before, my first instinct is, this is a part of pop culture that I just haven't witnessed yet, and eventually I will witness it and I'll get the reference, and that'll be the end of that. Which is sad, but it would be nice if every piece of content that I ever saw was completely original, but maybe that's unreasonable to ask. Or is it? Why would you bother taking the time to create a piece of content if you weren't going to make it as unique and special and amazing as possible? Why bother doing all that work if you're not going to create a gem? All I need is the air to breathe. All I need is love to conceive. All I need is death to bereave. All I need is your heart to retrieve. Melbourne is a city somewhere in the world. Hey, look over there, I've never seen that before. Hey, Melbourne is a place where you can do some things. Hey Melbourne, it's a good place to occasionally go to, but don't live there. I have been a major fan of Red Dwarf since my early childhood. I still remember the first episode of the show that I ever watched. It was the episode with the sirens. From that first episode, I could tell that the show was charming, clever, energetic, funny, but never took itself too seriously. It was really the perfect sci-fi comedy show. A short while later, I went back and watched the show from episode 1 and watched all the episodes of the early seasons. There was one particular episode which I was particularly infatuated with. It was the episode that Crichton makes what was originally planned as his cameo once-off appearance. I watched that episode dozens of times. I had it available on VCR and I would just watch it and then rewind it and watch it again. It reached the point where I could memorize the entire script of the entire episode off the top of my head. Even now, watching that episode brings me great nostalgia. Even though that one episode has nothing special to it in comparison to the rest of the Red Dwarf franchise, the fact that I, for some reason, decided to dedicate so much time to watching that one episode still has given it a special place in my heart. This beautiful duck ran under the truck, but he had no luck, 'cause he just got stuck.
Welcome back. Did you enjoy your little trip into that weird and disturbing world? This has been I Didn't Mean It Like That on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Stuart McMc. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to those around you, and be very careful before you open your mouth.